5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I guess we'll call to order. All of us are here, so let's get started. Can we get roll call, please?
Sure. Ash Shake,
Here.
Sarah Cornelli. Here. Chelsea Campbell. Here. Brian O'Connor.
Here.
Lisa Cunningham. Here. Bob Broadus is absent. Adam Haid.
Here.
Candace Whitehouse. Here. Ben Hemphill.
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Excellent, thank you. Today we have one item on the agenda where today is our required public hearing as per the Colorado Revised Statutes. Does anyone else have anything else they'd like to add to the agenda, or is it look okay to everyone here?
I'm pretty okay with that.
Do we need to have anything on the agenda for our PowerPoint discussion? Is that okay to not?
Okay, because you're not going to take formal action.
Okay.
Right. Sarah?
Sarah,
Oh, you're
when you talk, make sure you talk to.
your microphone. There you go. Okay.
I had a couple things. I read through the charter again
Mhm.
and a couple of notes I made.
Okay.
I'm not sure if we want to address them here or if it makes sense to do it at the next meeting.
Hillary, do you have a?
I think if we're going to be making changes, I'd rather know sooner than later. So that's my perspective, but
Okay,
it's up to you
we
guys.
can discuss and we can see if we're going to be making changes.
I mean, it's not nothing, it's
Okay.
little details here and there, things like that. You know, that we discussed, but I didn't find it in there,
Okay,
kind of details.
then yeah, we'll do that after the public hearing portion, assuming we've got enough time afterwards. So. Is there an action if we have to formally amend the chart, the agenda, or just say that we'll add that to the end?
I don't think so, because we're still only talking about the charter.
Mhm.
Excellent. Alrighty, then I think the first item is our public hearing, so. Item 23-217, this is a public hearing for the Home Rule Charter Commission required by section 31-2-206 subsection 9 of the Colorado Revised Statutes as part of the Town of Erie's Home Rule Charter drafting process. The public hearing for the Home Rule Charter Commission is now open, and the time is 6:32 p.m.
Mr. Chairman, this public hearing was noticed on March 22nd, 2023 in the Colorado Hometown Weekly.
Thank you. Is anyone here to make public comment on the draft charter?
No, we have no one in person.
Okay, anyone online?
Does not appear. They have not raised their hand.
Okay,
How long do we stay open, Hillary?
You can just keep it open and go about discussing other stuff.
okay.
In case people.
Oh, we did have them raise their hand online now.
Sorry, what was that, Gabby?
Who has raised their hand? I don't see anybody with a raised hand.
For just a second, Frank and Pat Ventura raised their hand, but perhaps they changed their mind.
No,
I
okay.
will. All right, yes, okay, I'm going to allow. There. You should be allowed to speak now.
Okay, we were trying to get into the section that would allow us to speak. I think we would like to wait a little bit before we speak, but it's a possibility that we would like to speak.
Okay. Then let me go through the script for now, just so you're aware, and then we can go about our other business and leave public comment open for a little bit. But let's see. So each speaker is going to be limited to 3 minutes of comments so that we can ensure everyone has an opportunity to speak in person or virtually. In-person comments will be taken first. No one is in person at the moment, but we'll follow with virtual comments. If you're joining virtually, if you'd like to speak, please use the raise hand feature. And if you're using a telephone, press *9. And you'll have 3 minutes to speak and 20-second warning when your 3 minutes is almost up. So if no one virtually wishes to speak right now, we can go back to some of the review, some other business. So I sent out the updated presentation. I know we still have a little bit of content to flesh out at the end there, but I know I took everyone's comments from the last one. Anyone have anything else that jumped out? No one? I did perfect.
You did.
Excellent. Okay. I know we've got some of the, I guess, forward work on this one was to make sure we had a real, like a solid list of the, our future recommendations. I was gonna summarize them here before we present the actual document to the board when we do our formal presentation. But other than that, I think it looks good, and I know Lisa approved of the flow at least in so many words. I did add the history of the vote for TNAC just to give that decision a little more background and weight. So. All right, if no one has any comments on that, then I know, Brian, you said you had some go backs to talk.
I did. So, let's see. Some of it's just, most of it's just basic wording, some of it's clarification. So basically, I wanted to 1.04 item 7, the right to purchase, lease, receive, hold, and enjoy, or sell and dispose of real personal property. I was thinking enjoy, maybe we should replace it with benefit from.
Enjoy kind of has a legal meaning in the sense of real property, like the right to quiet enjoyment of your property. So I mean, I would advocate for keeping enjoy, but if you feel strongly, then.
It was just something that jumped out at me
Yeah.
that was different from the rest of the language of the charter. So
Yeah, and I
this is-
think it's because it's derived from real property law.
Is it? Okay. Let's see. In 2.13, let's see. You talk about restoring staggered positions of the town council, but we never mentioned about staggering districts. The only other reference to that would be in 16.031, which basically details that the person with the most votes gets 4 years and the person with the second most votes gets 2 years, but it doesn't mention anything about keeping that stagger for a district if 2 vacancies occur.
So I think what you're saying is it's not explicit that we want the districts to be staggered.
Correct.
We should make it explicit.
I just
Yeah.
want to make, it's the same, I mean, do we want to make it sure that it's always staggered and that it's
I think
detailed
that's what
in
we
here?
talked about, so.
Yeah.
So yeah, just add the wording there to make sure that that emphasizes we're going to maintain staggered terms for inter-district positions.
Let's see. Next one was 4.01. I was thinking that when it states, let me get to that section in the oath, support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Colorado, the Charter and the ordinances of this town. Shouldn't it be the Charter and ordinances of the town of Erie?
You can make it that way.
I mean, we could also say this country, this state.
Oh, yeah, just.
Yeah, just call out the
Whoa,
town of
because-
Erie. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
They're just minor things. I mean,
Yeah.
they stood out at me when I read the charter again.
Yeah, I like it. It didn't.
Yeah,
Makes it our own.
yep, the ordinances of the town of Erie.
Yeah, I like that. Let's see. Is Hillary, when we finally get right to signing this, is things like punctuation going to be addressed? And consistency?
So the next step, and it's happening now because it's such a large document, but I've had our paralegal that's worked with us on this before. She's going through it. She's establishing the table of contents because there's a way to do that, with Word that I don't know about. And then adding the signature page. So as she does that, she's going to proofread it, but if there's stuff specifically that you see, please point it out.
Well, there was just inconsistencies with the use of like, well, actually going all the way back to 1.031. Town shall have all authority of local government and home rule and all authority possible. It's just odd to use that many ands. But unless it's the legal.
We could each, I'm fine if you are inclined to redline a Word document, if you want to propose those kinds of changes. I could distribute that after, or I could distribute it now. If we get into a situation where there's conflicting changes, I would have to decide, but if Brian's the only one that feels strongly about that.
It's not that I feel strongly, it's just a consistency thing. When
Understood.
I read over the thing,
Mhm.
you can tell that it's been pieced together from other charters.
Yeah.
But
And
well, take issue with that, but.
well, I'm saying, I mean, wasn't trying to offend,
No,
it seems,
understood. But if there are language suggestions, changes that you'd like to make, I think we can completely, I would prefer that you go through and do that rather than try to tell me, live and
Yeah.
as we're
I
rolling through
would,
this.
I would agree, because
So,
I was planning to do the same thing, like just go to review for wording and everything, so.
Yeah.
If you could distribute the Word document
Mhm.
and we can propose changes or
Yep.
track changes and we can put
that'd be
them all
fine,
in.
yeah.
Yep.
Maybe after tonight,
Mhm.
in case
Yeah.
there's any changes that we make. Yep.
And were there any other like just
Let's
grammatical or-
see. Yes, in 7.11. Let me get to that. It's a couple days ago I wrote this. If there's a recall, do those signatures need to be from the district, or can those signatures be gathered at large?
they should be from the district. So only those residing in the district have the ability to recall one of their district representatives.
I might have missed it, but I didn't see that it was stated in there.
It might be in the language of a qualified elector.
Okay. Where would registered electors? Okay.
So if they're entitled to vote for a successor, then they have to be within the district.
But do they have to be in the district to do a recall petition? Or even sign the recall petition?
Yeah, so in order to be a valid signature, they would have to reside in the district because someone outside is not eligible to vote for the successor.
So the wording is in 7.11 subsection 5. A recalled petition shall be signed by registered electors of the town entitled to vote for a successor of the incumbent sought to be recalled. So only the people who can vote for the person being recalled can sign the petition.
So do we need to state that for the,
The petition itself.
yes,
You want to. I don't think that's a bad addition.
Oh, so I
Like-
guess the issue is someone outside of the district could
Initiate the
petition.
recall.
Mhm.
and then collect signatures.
from inside
Right.
the district.
I mean,
Yeah.
you'd still have to have the support of those signing it,
Great.
but who initiates it?
I think that's fair. It would be probably go into 7.11 sub 2,
Yeah, I think so.
because that talks about, setting
The
up.
petition itself, yeah.
So we're adding that it has to be initiated by someone who resides in the district. Yeah. Any disagreement?
Is it someone who resides in the district or someone who can vote for the successor? So is it a resident or a?
Oh, I think it would be vote for the successor, same language, but yeah,
I'm fine with that.
all right.
And think, let me just look at this one. Everything else was just the stuff that we
Yeah,
can
the
do in a
wording
Word
on it.
document.
Okay. So yeah, that was just the three, I guess, substantial additions so far.
In 15.07, 1A. Is it majority of the council in office?
I
Or
think
majority
that's,
of the council who's
I-
present?
the
What
way
was
it's
that
written.
site again, Brian?
It was 15.07, 1A.
So that's amendments to ordinances. Oh, no, amendments to the charter.
Amendments to the charter.
Yeah. On proposed amendments referred to the town electors by a majority of the council. So yeah, who can propose amendments?
It should, it should just be a majority.
So even if
So-
they barely meet quorum, it's a majority of who's at that meeting.
Which
I
is-
mean, unless you want to make it harder. This is the standard that would apply to everything unless we make it harder.
I think because it's still just proposing a vote, right? They're not actually gonna get anything passed until it gets to the town. to
That's
vote.
why I that stood out
The
as
consistency. one.
consistency
Yeah.
thing, and plus it being that they're proposing to amend the charter.
Okay, so you think that should have a higher bar?
I'm asking the question,
Okay,
just as
does anyone have any thoughts on that?
I think I'm okay with anybody proposing to change the charter. I mean, whether or not it gets changed or not always goes to vote.
the
right?
residents, correct,
Yeah.
yes.
So I'm okay with it being proposed with just a majority personally.
I mean, there's a lot of business that a majority of the town council can affect for the town. And I think that this should be held to the same type of bar. Approvals for ordinances, approvals for development agreements. I think
Okay.
that this is similar to that in that they're placing something on a ballot. Certainly hope that there was some diligence done before that thought was done, but you have to have a quorum and then a majority to get it done. To me, that meets the same bar as many other things in the town.
and
What is?
also,
Sure, go ahead.
For reference, you need at worst 3 people
Mhm.
to approve it, to put it on. So other than that, it's 4, so it doesn't feel too bad to me. If you
Yeah.
have 4 or 5 people to make your quorum. And then the majority of them sign it, it's.
Hey, Ben, would you sit a little closer to the mic when you talk?
Yeah, why do you guys
Yes.
only have one to
Thank you.
share? Lisa and Ben have to share.
There's an extra.
I'll go sit in Malcolm's seat.
Okay, so as far as the proposal then, I'm okay with leaving it at the as written. How much does it cost the town to put something like this? I guess it's the same as any other ballot question, right?
Combined, I
Yeah,
mean.
They
it's
can
it's
call a
coordinated
special election for it, though. That's in the section
Yeah, I
1
mean,
right
this-
above it.
A
They could-
special election would certainly be expensive. If you're talking about adding it to a ballot at a general election, it's
Yeah.
additional pages, different additional ballot cost.
and if we're doing coordinated, then it's just kind of borne by mostly the people coordinating the elections, right?
Well,
do we still have-
there's IGAs between the town and both counties that apportion the cost.
Okay. So let's see. I mean, then maybe the higher bar should be on the special election part of it. Cause that costs the town a lot of money, right?
Mm.
To run a special election. So that would be the place to put the bar. So like. Anyone could propose an amendment and vote and like put it on a ballot, but if they were gonna do it by calling for a special election, that would have a slightly higher bar. So that there was actually, council buy-in.
I guess how do other people feel?
I'm
As
all
far as
looking.
the-
to
as
See
far
if there's
as
a
the-
special election.
Like,
portion of
yeah,
it.
special election having a higher bar.
I mean, at the,
Huh?
sorry, I spoke over you, Sarah.
No, you're fine. I'd actually rather hear your thoughts.
I was just gonna comment that at that time, there would still be staff informing the sitting council what those costs would be, and they're still in charge of their own budget. So there's kind of a
Yeah,
safety check on that.
so there's kind of already that backstop.
Mhm.
Does initiative trigger a special election? If that passes?
Yeah, if there's not a regular one near enough.
Can the initiative specify that it'll be placed on a coordinated ballot? Or would it?
It would be, if the town's only having a coordinated election, the initiative. You couldn't coordinate it if it was a special election, but yeah.
Right, but I'm
Mhm.
wondering like, how does,
If-
like you said, if it's close enough, is
If
there
the
like a
timing
legal?
works that it can be combined with a regular election, then it would go on the same ballot, the coordinated ballot.
Okay,
Yeah.
so there's the whole time frame aspect of that. So, I mean, I'm okay with leaving the bar as is, because like you said, there's already a backstop for the additional costs if there is a special election. And if it's not, then it's, I mean, the council can already put other things on ballots that cost the town money anyways, and they have the same bar.
Well, I wonder too, can you put a cost on democracy if it needs to be on the ballot, period, and people need to vote on it and get to have a say on it? I don't know. I don't want to make that harder.
That's, yeah, and that some of these were just thoughts that,
Yep.
you know, I wanted to bring up
No, I
once I
appreciate
read
that. Yeah.
read it again.
That's fair, and yeah. Was that the last
That's
of
it.
your? okay.
Yeah.
Did anyone else have any other topics to bring up or anything like that?
I just had a question.
Sure.
On 502, the election laws,
Mhm.
it says, that they're governed by the Colorado municipal election laws as amended, except otherwise provided in the charter or by ordinance. What kind of laws could they change with ordinance?
So when it's a coordinated election, the election is governed by Title I of the Colorado Revised Statutes. So if the town is running its own election, it's the Colorado Municipal Election Laws, which is Title 31. But so you do need to allow that flexibility. So when the town coordinates, it switches to the other election code.
But was your question more along the lines of how can the council pass ordinances that affect elections?
Yeah. that would
By
affect the law.
declaring an election coordinated, that therefore results in them having to run the election under Title I.
Oh. Would that be the only thing?
Depending on what types of changes in state law happen, maybe, I mean, initially when mail voting came out, you could only do that under Title I. There are now provisions in Title 31 for mail voting, but I could foresee, if ranked choice voting becomes an option, then the town would be choosing between different election codes based on the election, based on the type of voting they want to allow. So,
And that was one of the things we did want to leave
Mhm.
flexibility for in the future.
yeah, I mean, it would be possible that ranked choice voting would come in first in the uniform election code, which is the Title I one. And so in order to implement that, the town would choose to go under that code rather than Title 31.
And I'm sure you've noticed, but there's no 501.
Haven't noticed. What are you talking about? That's because I had the intents in and then I took the intents out. But that's what the proofreading
Yeah.
will pick up. Thank you.
I mean, anyone have anything else? Our agenda was pretty light today because this was supposed to be our public hearing, so.
Mr. Chair, we now have a resident in the room that would like to speak and a person online who has raised their hand.
Okay, let's start with in person then. So we'll continue with our open comment portion.
All right, Mr. Andrew Sawish.
Andrew Sawish, resident at 824 Dakota Lane. So I know we are now about, it's been about 4 months, so a little over 4 months. So again, I know I have said this before, but we greatly, as residents, appreciate everything that you've been doing here. As many have said, this is democracy at its finest, to see so many individuals talking about so many different things that at first you might not have known about, and getting up to speed on everything has been great to see, and the discussions have been amazing to oversee. So there's one quick item that I want to address before the other items. So this is in regards to 2063. Currently, it appears as if there are different considerations of vacancies for the mayor and council. So hypothetical situation. You have a mayor who is within the first 6 months who resigns their position. You have a mayor pro tem who then is now as the mayor. That mayor pro tem would then be for the next 3.5 years the mayor. There are no other considerations for the mayoral position to say there is a special election or there is at the next election for the remaining term. So whoever would be the mayor pro tem would be indefinitely until the next 4-year out election or the next second one where that full term would be up. That's when that would actually come up. So something to possibly review. There's also one quick item, 2065. If there are less than the number of trustees required to meet a quorum, there really isn't a way to call an election. So there is actually a House Bill 1185 that is currently moving through. This would actually allow the clerk to be able to call the special election if there aren't enough to meet quorum to actually have the election called. The elections are called by the governing body. They have to issue the ordinance to do so. And right now, if we were under quorum, we wouldn't even be able to technically call for that election. So the other item that I wanted to address, and this is something that I know you guys have been trying to figure out, is related to the districts aspect. I know that vacancy aspect is also ingrained within how you want to move to districts. I know districts are something you guys have been having as an item of contention, which way to go in terms of 3, 4 at large. I understand both sides of the current conversation.
20
On one
seconds.
side, this is that these individuals weren't elected to these districts for the current elected officials. On the other side, this is a gamble or a risk. Those were almost paraphrased or exact words from what were said last time. There is a compromise. It's actually to stave the transition where you start with 3 districts, 1 to each district, and have 3 at large. Imagine if you had 3 individuals who were still here. If our former trustee Van Woonberg hadn't resigned, you'd be sitting there with 3 individuals. Same situation with the appointment of current trustee Hoback. His term is up at the next municipal election for that position because of the appointment process, which was done the exact way that you guys have it currently in the charter. The individual who had the next highest votes. So if this is something that is a potential risk or a gamble, this is something that is a compromise and can also help to transition into those districts, because I know you guys have also said this district issue is something that can be contentious and potentially cause the charter to fail in November. So I thank you for your time. I know I went over, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then said we had a virtual comment as well.
We do.
Okay,
We do Frank and Pat Venturo.
go ahead.
You can go ahead.
Can you hear me? Okay, this is Frank Ventura. My wife Pat is sitting here also. We have posted our comments on the website, and those are the main things we want to get across. You can see what we've said. I would also like to, as the previous gentleman did, thank you for doing this. It's a thankless job, and I'm glad that we have fellow neighbors who step up and do this. Oh, by the way, I didn't tell you where we live. We live in the Arapahoe Ridge subdivision in Boulder County, part of Erie. Following up on the previous gentleman's comments about the district and having 3 members at large, I think that's a good idea because it gives you a transition. I know that one of the recommendations you're going to make is to sometime in the future, consider a ranked choice voting. If you look at our comments that are posted on the website, we talk about that kind of thing. We need to at the local level is where we are going to get some changes in how we operate our electoral system. And you guys are sitting in a unique position because you're creating a document that deals with a whole lot of important issues about voter participation, about the electorate participating. So the idea of having people elected at large gets us toward the proportional representation. When you make that recommendation about ranked choice voting, you might think about the recommendation of having at least 3 of the people be at large, because that helps you with your being able to get more people involved, not having to live in the same place. We're promoting the whole idea that we got to stop thinking about geographic representation. I mean, people represent and coalesce around certain kinds of issues. They aren't necessarily wedded to a neighborhood. I know you've got some problems that you've talked about and you're dealing with that. I appreciate that. But at the previous gentleman's comments about the 3
20 seconds.
at large would be good. I appreciate again. Thank you for doing this. Thanks for involving the public for comments.
Thank you, Frank. All right. Are we done with public comment then, as far as online?
Yes, we are.
Okay. All right, if there's no one else who would like to comment, last chance. All right, then the public comment portion of the public hearing is now closed and the time is 7:03 p.m. All right, all set. All right. Thoughts?
Way about turnout.
About the turnout, yeah.
I think that's an interesting perspective and interesting compromise that we should probably discuss.
Yeah.
I'm confused who the 3rd person would be if we left it, or would that just be an at-large vacancy?
I think it would be an at-large vacancy and would be elected.
Okay.
For that, yeah. At the November 2024 election.
And they would just get a 2-year term? And then the other 3 people elected to the district would get 4-year terms?
Yeah. I guess
Yeah.
there's 2 different ways of doing it, is like starting with you're right, like the elections to the specific districts would be the 4-year terms. And then the ones at large would be 2-year until they could be elected to 4-year terms inside a district.
And that helps set up the stagger.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Lisa?
I was thinking out loud. I was trying to understand how the 3. I was thinking out loud, sorry.
Maybe it would help to summarize or restate the
Yeah.
concern, because maybe not
Okay.
everyone caught it.
So there's, I think there were 2 aspects based on the 2 public comments. One was specifically regarding transition, right? Because right now we'll have 2 elected officials who would normally have their terms extend another 2 years. And the concern we had there, remember, was if we elect a whole new council, then everyone is new and figuring out things to start. So one way to potentially alleviate that and have it so that people inside a district are not represented by people they didn't vote for. For that transition period, the first 2 years under home rule, after the November 2024 election, we would elect one representative for each district for a 4-year term, and then one additional at-large person. And they would serve a 2-year term, and then the two currently sitting trustees who would have another 2 years at large as well. So you'd have 3 at large, 3 in a district. And then in the 2026 election, you'd elect 3 more inside each district for a 4-year term. And then we'd have 2 per district staggered terms, and we'd go from there. And then I believe the other comment was more along the lines of maybe keeping it that way, 3 at large and 3 in a 3 single district, 3 single district representatives, which is a different interesting idea.
Just to note, Longmont does that. They have 3 districts with 1 representative each, a mayor and 3 at-large council members. So
Yes, I know-
this wouldn't be new.
Yeah. And I know there was one of the public comments that I think that we got on our online forum that kind of addressed this too, is like it's easier to coordinate across the town when there are at-large positions. Because then everyone is not just looking out for themselves. They're, there's at least some people who are addressing and representing the entire town. But also you have your individual districts with their representatives.
I thought that comment was everyone at large.
It was.
It was, but this
Yeah.
helps address that, like to that effect.
Well, in going back to what was discussed about districts a while ago, the ones at large are at a financial, they have more of a financial burden
Right.
than the ones in a district. That was
Mhm.
one reason that we went with districts of, 2 per district. And the other is now, instead of a district being able to elect a representative every 2 years, they have to wait 4 years.
Mhm.
But the at-large, I guess, could fill that 2-year slot. So the at-large would be in,
Yeah.
let's say, just say 24, and the districts would be 26, and at-large would be 28.
Yeah, so
So
every year, everyone is voting for a representative.
that would be if you wanted to keep that
Yeah.
with a mix of at-large and districts. But that was the reason that that was
Yeah.
one of the reasons that we wanted 2 per district, is that there was not a financial burden on those ones at large.
That's true.
Yeah, I feel like I would consider the idea for the transition period, but I think once we're through transition, I think we really need to stick with 2 reps per district. It just seems confusing otherwise and a little bit unfair.
I agree as well. Here, sorry.
I agree.
He's only mad at me, Lisa, not you.
We have to ration our microphones here. Yeah, I think I would need to think on how that works, but I'm leaning kind of the same way, just I think we have to be consistent for simplicity's sake, because the more complicated we make elections,
Mhm.
especially when we're coordinated with national and state and county elections, it's gonna. As we saw from our election, there were people who just voted for one, charter commissioner and left it at that, or voted yes on the charter commissioner and didn't vote for a commissioner. Just when you start adding that complexity, it can turn voters off. And one of the big things we've focused on throughout this process is voter engagement, voter turnout. So. Yeah, okay.
I definitely need time to think about it.
Yeah, I don't think we should make a decision tonight. That's a
Yeah.
pretty big decision, but.
So how do we? Near the end, so how do we,
Yeah.
I don't
how
see,
would that work out if
That's the
we're
thing.
signing it, very soon?
I think we'll discuss it next meeting, because I don't think we've got, because that's why we left next meeting for discussions around any changes
comment.
from the public comment, from the public hearing. But,
So I guess come prepared next week
yeah,
make a final call on that.
yeah. Everyone do your homework, put your edits into the Word document Hillary's gonna send out, and then we'll discuss this. Because I think it's really the last dangling question, because this has been the one that's caused a lot, like, has the most like opposed opinions on. So I think it makes sense. It's the last thing we discuss before we stamp it and sign it. So, yeah.
So there are two issues that we're going to come prepared to talk about. One is the transition plan.
Yeah.
And then the other is leaving it in place or leaving the at-large, the 3 at-large positions in place
The
because of
proposed transition.
some of the considerations that have been raised.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because, yeah, I mean, there's definitely an argument to be made either way. And I think we should make those arguments and discuss it
Yeah.
with some time to prepare and think about it. Because I mean, we could sit here in silence for 30 minutes and think it, but pass, yes, agreed. So yeah, I think that'll be our big discussion point topic for next week, and then we'll do our final approvals, and then the following week will be our signing session, correct? Yeah. Okay. Did anyone have anything else to bring up for tonight at least? No?
Amy cleared her throat, or not Amy, sorry.
Hillary?
Oh, I
Hillary cleared her throat
was,
like she had something to say.
well, that actually, I just needed to clear my throat.
Sorry. for
I do
calling
have
you out.
something to say. The next draft that I circulate will include the certificate of final adoption, which is like the signature page. It doesn't have a whole lot of room for revision, but if you have strong thoughts about how you want to word that and you want to look at other charters, feel free. This is just like a standard one.
Is it just like the wording to say like, here's what we propose and we all agree to it type of thing?
Yeah, it's, yeah. We, the undersigned, present to the members of the, so,
Okay,
and then you'll just sign your name.
So print it out and practice your signature.
I'm totally gonna do that. guys. I'm just-
Hillary, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I know you all have discussed having the secondary, if you approve the charter and then the secondary of,
The alternate language, yeah.
yes.
Mhm.
Well, that's not in the charter?
oh, right.
It,
Yeah.
well, so this draft shows it as in the charter. And I think it can stay that way because the board, when they receive the charter, actually have to set the ballot question. So the tricky business about how we word the ballot is really their problem, not ours.
Or Debbie's and my problem.
Exactly. So enjoy. Yeah, so I think it can stay this way until, as the proposed charter, and then the Board of Trustees figures out how to word the ballot.
So would the Board of Trustees pull that out of the charter and put it as a ballot question? Because it being in the charter may be the
Yeah.
reason.
So,
That-
yeah, when it goes to the ballot, the form of the ballot,
Okay,
the clerk has a lot of discretion and control. So her job will be to pull that alternative language out and make sure it's a separate question and make sure the charter.
but if the charter passes and that fails, will that language always live in the charter as being?
Alternative language, like that whole section.
No,
Okay,
it gets cleaned up.
okay. Then, yeah, I think I'm seeing this, like, how much leeway does the Board of Trustees have to change the language of the charter if they can do that?
They can't,
Okay.
they can set the ballot questions though.
Okay, but like,
But
If
the
this is
voters
signed.
see that alternate language in there and they're gonna be asked.
I did, the whole charter isn't in the ballot.
But there's got to be somewhere
So the
where
question
the
is-
residents can
yeah, the
read
po-
it.
Sure. The question is something like, shall the charter as proposed by the Erie Home Rule Charter Commission be adopted?
I think
then-
the concern is that we don't want it in the charter when residents read it, right?
Correct.
Because we don't want that to turn voters off.
Correct.
So we don't want it
But
in
it-
there.
Like there, but it's I mean, it needs to
It's
be there,
separate.
but separate.
Yeah.
So how do you want to see it presented so that the problematic language isn't?
I mean, to me,
in
it's
there.
okay if it's there, as long as it's clearly presented as alternative language, like some sort of explanation of like what this alternative language, what this means, like what alternative language even is. Because if
Like,
I,
can it be like alternative language to be proposed as an inline ballot question or something like that?
yeah, I mean, something that makes it clear that this is language that you're voting on in a separate little fill.
I don't think that's gonna
thing,
be clear unless it's
something.
not in there.
I know, I think
But
so.
like, but if, go ahead.
Well, I would like, I think when we make the proposed charter language, the proposed charter available on the town website, which I'm sure we will do, it would be listed without that proposed language. It would be pulled out and listed as
Separate.
this, we would, on the election page, we would have the ballot language and then the charter. So it would
Right.
show.
So like
because-
what we propose and what we present to the Board of Trustees and what we sign should not include that alternative language section, right?
I think it has to.
Does it?
I think does it have to force that vote?
Well, I think you could probably put it in so it could live within the charter that you're sending up to the board, or you could choose one version or the other to include in that document. And the resolution that this body passes could require that alternative language be considered.
I'd be happier that way.
Yeah.
Just to keep, so it keeps.
Which one do you pick to live in the full document?
The set by ordinance
Okay,
language, I think is what we'd agreed on before.
So then on April 20th,
Mhm.
you'll write a resolution
mhm,
and bring that, and they will do a formal vote on the
Yep.
resolution.
yep.
And
It'll be in the packet before that, yeah. So you'll have a chance to look. at it.
okay.
Yeah.
So we'll have the language that we can look at.
Mhm.
Okay.
And that resolution was going to also include the intent statements that you all decided you didn't want in the document. So would you, maybe, do you want to see a draft of that for next time? Because some of the intent statements weren't really necessary because
Yeah.
some of the articles were kind of self-explanatory. So I don't want to be the one picking and choosing which ones need to go in there. So how about I prepare a draft of the resolution for next time? And that can be
those-
part of what you discuss.
Can those be two separate resolutions, one for the intents and one for the alternative language?
I think it has to be one, because
Okay.
I think you do one
One big-
thing.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, if you could send that out as a Word document as well, and we can mark it up.
Yeah, I think part of this too is gonna be key on how you guys present this and making clear to the VOT what the request is for
Okay.
the additional ballot question. Because I don't think we want to include it in the charter. That's gonna potentially turn voters off, but I do want to make it very clear that we need them to do this and add it
Well,
to the ballot.
We're
Yeah,
requiring
and
them to
the
do it.
town
Yes,
attorney
yes.
and knows about the plan and
Okay,
we'll help make sure that happens.
perfect.
But largely it's going to be the resolution and what you present when
Okay.
when you show up to the board.
Okay, and that's the binding part. The resolution we pass
Mhm.
binds the Board of Trustees to do what we tell them to.
Yep.
Okay.
And your thing.
Yes. Okay. So going into next week, we have that question about how we handle the transition, and we'll have a discussion regarding the districts one last time. And everyone has homework to go through and mark up the charter, the final language as written, as well as the text of the resolution that you'll be drafting for us. Any others?
Do we want a list of ideas that we came across, or do we want to?
I think so.
Do, because I hadn't received any
Okay.
feedback back.
Yeah, I can't
So if
remember.
it-
We said so many times throughout, like, this is something that we want them to do later, but we didn't.
Well, it's not even one, it's just ideas that
Who's
we
gonna
came
rewatch all the
across.
meetings?
Huh?
Yeah.
What's
We
that?
watch all the
Who's gonna
meetings.
rewatch all the meetings?
Not it.
Find those.
I think
Oh.
Ash has done a pretty good job keeping track though.
Yeah, I'll go back through. I know we had some, I've got a running list of some stuff, so I can try to comb back through my notes and figure out what we said and send that out as a list. And I can add it into the presentation as well. Okay. right, any other business for tonight? We good? Okay. All right, I think we're set to adjourn for today.